back to Money Honeys. So at this point, I think our listeners, y'all out there, all know that have taken a year off from recording the pod because we had to handle the business of living our lives. But we're back this year and we're a little broke, but we're better than ever.
So today we are discussing something that unfortunately we are all experts on. Mental breakdowns.
Mental breakdowns. Wow. Okay. Well, before we dive into it, and venture into this topic of conversation, let's just begin to I'll begin by saying that you all's mental health is extremely, extremely important to us. And in the spirit of keeping this entertaining, in the spirit of keeping it light and keeping you engaged, we will probably make a joke or two, but we absolutely do not take mental health lightly, and we do not take mental breakdowns lightly. And we really want to dive into the weeds of what it costs to be taking care of yourself.
And we're just hoping that this episode sheds some light on the financials behind needing to step away from work and life for mental health reasons. And our hope is that we leave this episode with some knowledge about how best to pad your pockets when you need to take a step back. Because let's be honest, we've all been there.
Yep.
So for the purposes of this episode, when we say the words mental breakdown or menty B, what we're really talking about are days when you just can't. We're talking about the days when you can't work or earn income because you need to tend to your mental health, right? So this could be because of a lot of things. This could be because you're underslept, or you're suffering from depression or a panic disorder or even a psychotic break. It's different for everyone. Everyone experiences breakdowns differently, and there's no judgment here.
So if you don't think you can listen to this episode today because of your own mental health, please take care of yourself. We love you.
And you can always come back to this app or not. Totally fine.
That's right, y'all. Okay, so diving in, without going into any details, about how many mental breakdowns do y'all think that y'all have had in the past, 6 months? Oh, Fred has a look on her face like she was not prepared for this question.
Which I should have been, because you sent the outline out ahead of time.
Fred is actually having a mental breakdown right now.
Right
folks,
now, as
live
we
on the
speak.
pod.
Oh my gosh. Well, I have to say, honestly, the past 6 months have been truly some of the hardest for me in this overall journey of trying to get back in line with feeling like I'm in a good spot financially. It's been bad, you guys. I'd probably say at least 8 or 9. I've probably had at least 8 or 9, days where I am just going through the motions. There's a feeling of hopelessness and sadness that's just swirling around, And I don't know if that counts as a mental breakdown, but I know that I'm not functioning to my full capacity because of where I'm at. So that's kind of how I interpret it.
I feel like, well, first of all, Fred, I'm so sorry. And I feel like that definitely does count because a lot of us in this world can't afford to take a day off for their mental health. So they have to go through the motions.
Yeah,
that's true. Well, for the past 6 months, the past year and some change, I've had there have been large swaths of time in there where I've had a mental breakdown every day, just because of stuff I was going through in my life. And so where Freddie used at 8 or 9, I was like, oh, it's not bad. But
relative.
It's all relative. Because I've just been going through the worst situation and mental health that I've ever experienced in my life. So for me, there have been so many days and so many times where I've just honestly called Devin crying because of different things that I've learned and discovered and found out and all that stuff. And so, mental breakdown is kind of just name your day. Now I think I'm probably down to having a little active. I wouldn't call it a full breakdown, but I would call them just an activating moment or night, probably once or twice a week, every other week, around there. Just depends.
Yeah.
Some weeks it's every day, sometimes it's not.
Wow, I have really decided to kick off this episode with a really light and fun question for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, oh my God.
Sorry
Yeah.
about that. Love you guys so much. Thank you so much for sharing and being vulnerable, because I think just in general, a lot of us, with the state of the things in the world going on right now, especially in America, are kind of experiencing this panic and just like natural WTF in our heads when it comes to mental breakdowns. But for me specifically, as I've gotten older, my mood swings around ovulation and my luteal phase have gotten pretty intense, which leads me to believe that I have a touch of PMDD. And it's not like every month, but I'd say that once a quarter, I have a day or two where things like arson sound like a good idea. And listen, if I'm just going to be honest with y'all,
Please.
if I'm going to be honest with y'all, at this point, I'm like, that doesn't Taylor Swift have that song where she's like, I can do anything even though I'm crying? I'm not a Swiftie. So what is it, Chantel? She's like, I can do
I can do it with a broken heart, and I relate to every lyric. Yeah.
Exactly. So like, I feel like at this point, I've cried at work so many times. I mean, when it comes to crying, I don't need to like tap out of work. But when it comes to like my intense mood swings, like I'm going to cut someone, that's when I probably should not show up, So I'm starting to map out in my year if I can afford to take off 8 days off for my mental health a year. Because if you think about it, 2 days a quarter, that's 8. And if I'm going to be completely honest, right now I'm working as a development producer, predator editor type, and I get paid $600 a day. So if I'm going to take off 8 days a year, I'm losing $4,800 a year for this touch of PMDD that I'm assuming that I have, which again, we don't know much about PMDD because guess what? They don't study women's bodies, but we'll get into that in another episode. That's enough to cause you to have another mental breakdown. So because of all this, go ahead.
What does PMDD stand for?
Premenstrual something disorder. I could look it up, but I won't. But it's basically like when you have a premenstrual, I know I can feel our listeners screaming at the radio now, screaming really like, it's this, but it's something
Dysphoric?
that starts with dysphoric. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's basically when you have intense feelings or intense bouts of depression when your hormones shift, because they do shift around ovulation and your luteal phase. And one of them, I can't remember if it's estrogen or progesterone, just drops, which causes you to have like all those intense feelings. And when we're recording this episode, we just found out as the female population yesterday that they're putting poison in our tampons. So maybe I got PMDD from the tampons. Who's to say? Again, Fred looks sad. So I did a bunch of research, and I'm going to present this information to y'all as sort of a best case scenario and a worst case scenario when you're having a mental breakdown, because both exist, right? We live in a capitalistic hellscape where not everyone gets time off for their mental health or their regular health. So let's start with the good, okay? If you have a job that offers medical insurance and PTO, a mental health day can technically count as PTO, meaning that you don't really have to take time off of earning income for your mental health. But PTO differs from industry to industry and country to country. And I found a really interesting fact that I want y'all to play a little game with me. Which country gives their citizens the most PTO? It'll surprise you.
I think it might be Australia, because those people travel. They like leave for their like summers and stuff. So I think it might be them. And then also, just in case folks don't know, PTO means paid time off.
Or as my friend Della likes to say, it stands for prepare the others. I'm not going to be there.
That is so real. That's so real.
Pay the others. Love it.
What about you, Fred?
I'm going to say like Norway or Denmark or something.
So that's what I was going to say, because those Scandinavian countries have it so good, apparently.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Happiest in the world. But the answer is Iran.
Oh.
Iran offers the most
Oh.
PTO on average, with a total of 53 days, 26 vacation days, and 27 public holidays. Isn't that crazy?
Dang, that's nice. That is
Right.
nice. 53 PTO days, and then say it again?
26 days of PTO and then 27 days of public holidays. Isn't that
Wow.
good? That's like more than a month of time off, right?
Yeah, because I
Hey.
get 21 days of PTO a year, which is pretty good. So it's 3 weeks. No, it's more than that. How much is it? Maybe I don't get
It's
20.
about 3 weeks.
Yeah. Do I get 21 days? I don't know. I think
Well,
I
if your
get
boss is
21
listening, you
days.
should get more.
I think I get 21 days of PTO, and then I don't remember how many holidays, but it's definitely not anywhere near the 20s at all.
Yeah, I'm like, do we even have that many holidays?
I
Like,
don't know if we do.
So as far as industries go, it varies a lot, but a rule of thumb is the bigger the company, the more resources they have to support their employees. So larger companies generally mean that they have more to invest in employees' benefits. So they often offer comprehensive packages. So also something that all Americans should know and cite is there is a Mental Health Parity and Addiction Equality Act. And it was passed in the 80s. Basically, it says that most health insurance plans in the United States are required to cover medical or mental health and substance use disorder services at the same level as medical and surgical care. So if you call your insurance company and are like, "Hey, I need to go to therapy. Where can I find a therapist?" And they're like, "Oh, we don't cover that. You can cite this. You can call it's the MHPAEA. Remember that, folks." And in 2019 poll by the American Health Insurance Plans is found that 92% of commercially insured adults have access to mental health benefits through their plans. So that's good. That's a bit of good news.
That is good news. That is good news. I know so my therapist is not in my plan, but I think if I could find a therapist in my plan. She just happens to not be.
so okay, really quickly before we move on, what do you mean by commercially insured?
So, commercial health insurance is health insurance provided by private issuers as opposed to government sponsored health insurance.
Thank you, Chantel.
Thank you, Google.com.
Okay. She's always there for us. But, not all of us in America have jobs that come with insurance and PTO, like all of us on this call. I mean, well, Chantel, you have insurance and PTO. Must be
Mhm.
fucking nice. But
I do
I have
feel
to pay for
very
it.
privileged right now to have a full-time job where I can just, it was the proper time in my life for me to have a full-time
Yeah.
job right now. So I'm really I'm so thankful that I have one.
1,000%. But have y'all ever had to miss a job opportunity because of your mental health? And if so, how much did it cost you?
There have been times where I haven't been able to work as much as I needed to, or I've had to like put in PTO for my mental health. But right now, since I am in more of a full-time situation, I'm able to kind of work it out that way and have it be my PTO, or have it be like, hey y'all, I'm sorry, I gotta sign off, that type of thing. So there's been times like that, or if I know that there's like a particular date or something that might be hard, then I just take it off.
Yeah, I have to say, I don't think that there's been a time where I've done that in my freelance gigging journey. I guess it's been almost 4 years at this point, because I've never felt like I could really afford to miss out on any opportunities, regardless of how my mental health was.
Mhm.
I've just definitely kept it moving and compartmentalized.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
good for you, but also I'm sorry you had to do that.
Yeah, it sucks. I would have loved to at least feel the freedom and the flexibility to, take some time for myself. But even recently, I went to Boston to visit like some friends for a bridal shower weekend and a bachelorette weekend. And it was the first time in a while that I've like really kind of unplugged and taken a step back and not looked at my emails so much and not been on the hustle and grind, that it really felt like food for the soul.
Mhm.
But I will say, during that time, I was still trying to work, and I did make a big mistake that cost me money because I was not fully there, because I was really trying to like unplug and be present where I was, but I didn't feel like I could communicate that I was offline. Does that make
Mm.
sense? So
Yeah.
because of the mistake, I did get, a dock in my pay. So I guess that is an example.
Yeah, I would
That's
definitely call that an example. And I I hate that for you. I hate that for just work-life balance, because you should we should be able to, take that time off when we need it, and you should be able to unplug,
Yeah.
and it shouldn't affect your pay. And it's so difficult, like, truth be told, there's a lot more days that I should have taken off that I didn't, or times where it's like, okay, have a mental breakdown, sign back on, finish out your day, roll right into a meeting where you just have
Right.
to be on. You have to give a presentation, you have to do this, you have to do that. But yeah, I'm really sorry that happened.
yeah.
Thanks, girls.
We
Yeah,
should
it sucked, but I think it was just more so a lesson in like communication and really just like setting that boundary both for myself and for my employer of just like, hey, I'm going to be offline these few days, like, we'll circle back when I'm back online, but I just didn't feel like I could do that. And so now I'm like, okay, Freddie, you got to do that.
you shouldn't feel guilty about doing that. But
Yeah.
again, we live in this hustle and grind culture. And especially when you're there to be supportive for another person, like that's your work right now. It's so hard to ask for that time off without feeling guilty.
Yeah, for sure.
So the best thing in my research, I found out as freelancers, Fred, the best thing that we can do to kind of pad out or create a buffer for those situations are three things. Establish an emergency fund, which is something that we've talked a lot about on this podcast. We know we've talked about that at length, so find our other episodes about emergency funds. Look into short-term disability insurance, which is just another insurance thing that you have to worry about. And if your eyes are rolling back into the back of your head, I feel you.
Yeah.
But basically, it's an insurance policy that is there for you in case you need to like tap out of work. And it depends on the policy that you get, but it can cover up to 70% of your salary for X amount of periods, weeks. So that is something else that you can look into. And then something that I have, which is an HSA, which is a health savings account, which it's so helpful when you have to like cover medical costs or unexpected medical costs, because it's pre-tax dollars and they roll over year. So it's just basically like another savings account, a pot of money that's never taxed. You do earn a little bit of interest on it, and all that money goes towards anything that's health related, prescriptions. If you need a massage, which I would argue is even there to help you on your bad mental health days, massages, those are covered by your HSA account. Lots of things. Do y'all have short-term disability insurance or an HSA?
I don't have an HSA. I've always known about them. I've heard, I know a lot of people have them and they say that they're super useful. I just have never really looked into it too much or taken the plunge, but it is something that I am curious about. I'm actually curious about both short-term disability insurance and HSAs as a freelancer, because I think I mentioned before on this podcast, but I'm on my partner's health insurance now. So it's like, would I just look into if short-term disability insurance is separate from that, or if it comes along with his plan? It would have to be something separate, right?
think it depends. It depends on the company. And again, the bigger the company, the more benefits that they get. But when it comes to an HSA, the one really annoying thing is you have to be a part of a high deductible health plan. So like my deductible for
Ugh.
I know. So I pay like close to $600 for my health insurance every month. Again, I pay out of pocket, but it's a high deductible plan, which affords me to have an HSA. So then I do pocket away money that is pre-taxed. And then that money goes towards health stuff, like I mentioned. But those are the two annoying things are. But I would definitely check with Ruff and definitely have Ruff check with his HR manager because then he could get some more information about that.
I know that he did just find out that like massages and acupuncture are covered under his insurance. So we are going to explore that soon because I think, yeah, the copay is like $10. And I'm like, yes, ma'am,
Hello.
sign me up.
Yeah.
Hell
Take
yeah.
the stress off my shoulders. Yeah.
Hell yeah. It has not occurred to me to check into that, like the massage side of things. I'm like, that would
Yep.
be really
The
nice.
luxury piece of it.
Yes. Yes. I'm like, oh my God, the amount of massages I would have gotten, we would have been going hard.
Oh yeah. At least
Yeah.
twice a month.
Oh,
Well,
yeah,
don't
I'm
y'all
thinking
think that's a
weekly.
part of like don't y'all think that's a part of our like American capitalistic society where we don't even think of these things as mental health or as healthcare, massages and acupuncture?
Yeah, it seems
We
like
think
a
of them-
luxury.
Right. So dumb.
Yeah. I think of acupuncture a lot, actually. I'm just like such a big like, proponent of acupuncture. Like I've talked to like Devin about acupuncture like last week. But yeah, like the massage side of things, I gotta look into that. And then I also I don't have an HSA. I really gotta get on it. I really gotta look into that. I just do. Yeah. And then short-term disability would be through my employer.
Yeah, which I'm sure you definitely have. Most employers offer that.
Yeah. I feel like it might be mandatory. I'm not sure.
I will say I tried to apply for a short-term disability. This was years ago, and I think I mentioned it on the podcast. And I got sucked into applying for full life insurance plan. And it was like the worst.
Yes, I remember this.
Uh-huh.
And
Oh
then
my
they ended up
gosh.
denying me. They denied me. They turned me down. I'm still not over it. It was the rejection that still stings because they, I had to do everything. I had to get my blood taken. I had to give them my plasma. I had to leave them strands of my hair, almost like all of it. And then they still rejected me. I was like, this is egregious.
Yeah. No, it's a lot. It's a lot when you're applying for it like out of pocket, which is what you have to do.
So what are some things that y'all do when you're having or on the brink of having a mental health crisis or mentee B? Even a tiny little mentee B. What are some things that you do to help make yourself feel better?
Well, this year, I would say, I guess since December, and I don't necessarily think that I started doing this because I thought it would help my mental health. I just thought it would help my overall health, which would be just like, and it sounds really simple, but literally just like 15 minutes of stretching every day, like uninterrupted stretching. And I tested out different times a day. Like at first I was doing it in the mornings, like as soon as I woke up. But then over time I realized like I really love to stretch right before bed. Like it's like a wind down ritual that has like helped me sleep so much better. And I think that that's helped any kind of mental health hangups that I've had, like just really sticking to being consistent with stretching before bed.
I
that's
love
free.
that. That's free.com.
I sleep so well. Yeah.
Wow. No, I mean that's what, and stretching is so good for you. Can you do the splits?
No, I can though. Like I can touch beyond my, I don't know how to describe it. let's just say I'm a flexible girly now.
Okay.
Does a shimmy.
Miss FK. Yes, you are. Because I remember there was a time, right, where you were a self-proclaimed not flexible lady.
Yeah. That's been my narrative my entire life.
Yeah.
And I'm really finding myself now. It's taken a long time. Like, it literally has taken me 8 months to like feel like I'm actually limber. And it's like, wow, I'm proud of myself for sticking to something. And also, it's great for my physical and mental. So it's been good.
Hell yeah. I love
Wow, I'm
that.
so proud of you.
Thanks, girls.
Snaps
What
for
about you?
Fred. Wish I could snap.
Oh, I can't.
My
snap
fingers
either.
just gently rub together.
Yeah, same. I'm snapping in front of the mic, and there's nothing. There's nothing. It's just little poofs of air. But snaps for Fred. My menty bee, what I do is not as good as that, Fred. That is very very nice to hear. I order takeout. That's what I do. Like nothing. There's nothing like throwing away $50 for delivery ramen.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what it is. The medicinal qualities of ordering Blaze ramen from Silver Lake Ramen.
Now, is it the thrill and ridiculousness of the $50 that really does it for you, or is it
Good
like
question.
what is
Good
the
question. I think it's the ramen itself and the fact that I don't have to make it. You know, and
It's
it
worth
comes to me. Oh my God. It's so good. And it's so like it's a guilty pleasure. So if I feel myself approaching the brink, I look at my checking account, I look at Patrick's face, and then I make the decision if it's ramen night.
I mean, I have so many things to say about this. Number one, I feel it's so hard. Ramen is healing. We've talked about this, but
Okay.
yeah, I think ramen is perhaps the theme of this season, ramen and her healing properties. And I get that. Last night, I was like, you know what? We're just not going to do this tonight. We're just not. And so I ordered my comfort meal, which is a Caesar salad with buffalo chicken from Veggie Grill and fries. And that was it. And I had a great night.
It is.
Yeah. And then I watched the Kardashians. So
Oh, that sounds great.
yeah.
This is the little costs of saving your mental health. So this is the best case scenario of taking a mental health day or having a mental breakdown. If you have a full-time job, if you have PTO, or even if you're a freelancer, and these are the ways that you can afford to take time off. Next week, join us for the worst case scenario, because sometimes we're there. Sometimes I would wager to say all of us at one point in our lives touch the worst case scenario of our mental health. And sometimes we have to prepare for that. So next week, tune in for the worst case scenario of mental health breakdown. But before we leave, y'all, how are you feeling? Do we feel richer with this knowledge?
Yeah. No, I actually do feel better. I feel more empowered after this episode. Like, I feel empowered after most of our episodes because I'm in the cast and I care about this podcast deeply. But
Yes, that and
yes and improv
Yes,
and Ariana Grande have taught us yes and
I really do more so just like feel more empowered to set boundaries, speak up for myself, and give myself grace. And also not to believe that it has to be the worst case scenario for me to take a beat. You know, like the point of these episodes are it's really to normalize and be as relatable as possible, and that like whatever stage, quote unquote stage your mental health is in, nothing is really worse than the other. Whenever you're just not feeling yourself, that is enough of a reason to give yourself grace, give yourself time and space if you can afford it, because we do know that, yes, it's still a privilege at the end of the day to be able to take time off or do what you need to do for mental health. But please always feel empowered that when you're not feeling it, there are options for you.
I
right.
love that. And I surprisingly also feel a little bit richer knowing this stuff. So take the walk,
So real.
get the
Throw
insured
$50
massage
out the window. Yeah. Call your insurance company. Ask about acupuncture. Throw $50 out the window for takeout. Do it. It's worth it. It's worth it in the end, because next week we're going to explore what happens if there's a worst case scenario.
Until next week.
We love y'all.
Bye.
Bye.